body systems project and the computer science component where we add an interactive scene button. One thing to keep in mind prior to coding, you need to decide as a team whether your group will create the same button appearance or a different button appearance. What I mean by that is, if you look at my project, I have all my buttons the same. You can do that, or you can decide to have different button appearances. That's your call. Secondly, though, if you decide to do a different button, then decide, will you design the button or upload a button image? Like, will you find a button on YouTube, or sorry, on Google, and then upload that, or design one on your own? Again, having that taken care of prior to coding will save you some time. Again, with mine, I decided to design my own, and today's tutorial will follow a design focus. So with that being said, I will go ahead and pull up my interactive scene. Now, if you recall from yesterday, when I had my flag clicked, it would ask me for this camera and microphone setting, and I had to do this really annoying thing where I had to click on each one of these buttons in order to pull up the body parts. So I had to click on each one of these to go ahead and show each one of the body parts. And that was getting really, that was kind of annoying to do that. But we had to do that yesterday for the sake of making sure that this was actually working. Today, what we're going to do is the following. Prior to making our button, let's go ahead and when I click my flag, what I'm actually going to do is go to each one of these sprites, and I'm actually going to delete this code right here. Turn video on and set video transparency to 50%, because that's going to happen automatically for me in one place. So let me go ahead and get rid of that code for all of these. Make sure that you've reconnected the other code though. And last one right here, there was nothing there. Now I can go ahead and start. What I want to do is create a new button. So I'm going to create a new sprite, and I'm going to leave the button labeled costume 1. This is important so that it doesn't get confused with code later. I just want to leave it as costume 1, no big deal, just leave it as it is. And like I said, I'm going to actually paint my button or create my own button, and you can make it whichever design you want. But ultimately what I'm going to do is fill it. Actually, maybe I'll fill it with something a little bit lighter. And then go ahead and put interactive scene, or maybe scene. And because that's so long, what I may want to do is just put scene. You can decide to put interactive scene, but remember, if I click outside of it, I can resize this, or I can move it to wherever I want. But remember, once I click outside, I can't do anything. So if I didn't like the font, I have to do an undo on it. And so I can go ahead and change this to something that I like, make it a little bit larger, and move it to where I want. Okay. Now my button's all set. Maybe you don't like the size of the button, so you can click on that icon right there, this select icon, and then you can make it bigger or smaller. It doesn't have to match your teammates perfectly, because somebody else will do that later. Let's go ahead and add the code for this. So what I'm going to do is go to the scripts tab, and what I want to do is the following. When I have my flag clicked, so I'll go to my events, and when my flag is clicked, I want to show this button. So I'll go to looks, and I'll pull out show. And now I want to decide where this button is going to go. Because all of my parts are over here, I'm going to put my button over here. Now listen, it doesn't actually matter where you decide to put the button, because there's going to be a compiler who decides ultimately where the buttons go. But maybe I'll just put mine right over here. And so remember, wherever it is, Scratch already tells you where it's located, and it puts it automatically there. So I'll go ahead and drag a go to. And like I said, it's already there. So I've got that in place. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and go back to events. And I'm going to drag over this block of code. And I'm going to change this, not when I receive parts, but actually I'm going to make a new message and I'm going to call it main menu. And now it's very important that I've capitalized main and menu and put a space in between. If you don't do that, it's going to screw up the code later. So again, capitalize main, capitalize menu, put a space in between. When I when I put that there, I actually want the same code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off, grab my stamp, and go ahead and stamp it. And now I've got two of the same code right here. Next, I want to drag over another one when I receive, and I'm going to change this and make it another new message, not main menu, not parts, but a new message called switch with a capital S. Capital S, W-I-T-C-H. Make sure that it looks exactly like that. Capital S, W-I-T-C-H. And now when I receive switch, I'm going to go back to looks and I'm going to hide it. And now here's the code that is going to make this button work. Go back to events. When this sprite is clicked, so when this button is clicked, I want certain things to happen. First, go to your looks and drag over switch backdrop 2. Okay. Now you can just leave it right here. It doesn't matter what this is right now. The person compiling is actually going to decide what that's going to be. So you just leave that. Now though, let's put back the code that we actually deleted. So I will go back here and grab a turn video on and set video transparency to 50%. Okay, turn video on, set video transparency to 50% from our sensing drawer. And lastly, two more broadcasts. Go back to events, and now I'm going to broadcast parts, and I'm going to broadcast switch. So I broadcast parts and broadcast switch. My code is done. Let's go ahead and do a file save now. Let me click my flag and everything's here. When I click on my scene, now I've got everything in order, and now I can make sure that everything is working just with one piece of code. With that being said, we are done with the interactive scene button. Great job.